How's it going, guys? Estu here, the special video to commemorate hitting Diamond 1. Since Daily Duel originally started out as a means to motivate me to hit Diamond 1, I figured now that I've actually done it, I should do a special little episode. In just a second, you're going to see the game I played to hit Diamond 1, and then after that I'm going to go through a series of stats about how I climbed through Diamond, such as my win rate, the decks I used, the decks I played against. So if you want to see that, stick around. And if not, no hard feelings. Enjoy the video. Bit of an anticlimactic duel, I know. But hey, it got me to Diamond 1, so I'll take it. Now, for what you've all been waiting for. The juicy stats about my glorious climb through Diamond. First, let's talk about the decks I fought, then we'll talk about the decks I used. So, as you can see from this pie chart, very beautiful, I know, it's really just fantastic. I played 154 duels to get to Diamond 1. It's a lot of duels. Took a lot of time because I started grinding really late in the season. But hey, you know what? It's over. I'll take it. The overwhelmingly most popular deck, as you can see here, was Swordsoul. No other deck came even close to its usage rate. It took 25.3% of the decks I faced. Pretty much the dominant deck in, like, every capacity. Of those 39, 38 were Swordsoul Tenyi. Shouts to the one guy doing his absolute best to use exclusively Swordsoul and hand traps. I don't know how well he did, but hey, he tried. Tri-Brigade and Eldritch followed pretty closely behind with 9.7% and 9.1% respectively. Tri-Brigade can be broken down further to like 10 Zodiac Tri-Brigade, 2 that are pure Tri-Brigade, I think there were 2 Lyraless Tri-Brigade, and a Melfi Tri-Brigade. The Melfi one was really cool to see. You like never see that. But beyond that, Tri-Brigade is the deck I struggle with the most. It's just a really difficult deck for me to play against. I don't know what it is about it. I just struggle with it a lot. But the deck I had the lowest win rate to was Numerons. At 6.5% of my duels, they were a fucking pain. They smacked me around about 60% of the time. Exactly 60% actually. They won 6 out of 10 of the duels, and the biggest issue was that against them, usually I was going with my going second Dinos deck, and I have pretty bad coin flip luck. So I would lose the coin flip, they'd make me go first, and then they would wipe me out. Which, you know what? Hey, fair play. That's how it goes. It still kind of sucked. Next up, I had Sky Striker with 8 duels and 5.2%, AFK bots with a frustratingly high 4.5%, Invoke Dogmatica Shadow, tying them with 4.5%, Gren Maju with 3.2%, Luna Kaiju Control with 2.6%, Ignister with 1.9%, and Virtual World with 1.9%. All the other decks I fought had either 2 duels or 1 duel. So they didn't quite make the cut, but overall, this meta was pretty diversified. The only issue, Swordsoul is just so common, and it's not the most interesting deck to play against, but it is so much more fun to play against than Drytron or Adamancipators. I didn't encounter any Drytron at all. I encountered 2 Adamancipators. That's it, 2. This meta was so much more fun, to be quite frank. It was just so much more fun. As you can see, the deck I used most often was my Blind Second Dinos deck. To be totally honest, I kind of ripped this exact list off of Master Duel Metas Guide for Dinos, so shout out to that write-up. If you're interested, please give them a look. They are such a good resource. They have tons of deck lists, tons of guides, all well, mostly community submitted, and it's just a great site to use. So, real quick, we'll just go over the list. Here is my Dinos Blind Second deck list. So this deck won 44 duels and lost 35, with a win rate of roughly 55.7%. The biggest issue I ran into with this deck was bricked hands. Could just be bad luck, could be bad ratios. Don't know. When the deck works, it works really well, but I constantly drew into Giant Rex or Cyframe Driver or so many hand traps that I couldn't get a combo started, to the point where I lost 6 games in a row and demoted from Diamond 2 to Diamond 3. And that was the last straw. At that point, I finished my Swordsoul deck and I laddered with that. The basic strategy I used for this deck was to try and OTK my opponents by always going second and setting up Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, Duelist the Timeless, and Pentastag. Duelist would double Tyranno's attack to 7,000, Tyranno would destroy a monster in hand, or worst case scenario, even destroy Duelist. That way every monster in the opposing side of the field would be flipped into face down defense position, and Pentastag would allow Tyranno to deal piercing damage, so 7,000 attack, dealing piercing damage, pretty strong. For the main deck monsters of this deck, Cypher Gamma, Ash Blossom, Maxi, you know what they do, they act as your hand traps. I briefly added Infinite Impermanence at 3 to bring the deck to 43 cards. That way I would have a few more hand traps, maybe a little more interruption, but ultimately I ended up struggling with my opening hands too much and I cut them. Animadorned Archosaur searches your most important spell, Double Evolution Pill, by destroying a different dinosaur monster in your hand or field. Baby Ceratosaurus and Petite Pteranodon both allow you to special summon a monster when they're destroyed by card effect. Giant Rex is a fantastic card if you don't draw into it, because you can special summon it, use it as material, and then banish it to resummon it and use it as material again. But like I said, if you draw into it, it can really suck. Miscellaneousaurus is a vital monster here, with both of its effects being incredible. So the first effect sends it from the hand to the graveyard, but it makes your on-field dinos immune to activated effects for the rest of the main phase. Its second effect allows you to banish any number of dinos from your graveyard, including Miscellaneousaurus, and you special summon a dino from your deck with that same level. So for instance, if you banish just Miscellaneousaurus, you can summon Animadorned Archosaur, and that's your combo starter right there. Soul-Eating Oviraptor provides a search when it's summoned, and you can destroy a level 4 or lower dino on the field to special summon another dinosaur monster from your grave in defense. This is great for when you're destroying Baby Ceratosaurus, obviously, or if you got Lost World up, you can destroy the token, well, try to destroy, and Lost World will destroy a monster from your deck instead, which you can then select Baby Ceratosaurus or Petite Pteranodon, destroy it, get your free special summon. Really great card. There's a reason it's at 2. Pankratops. Fantastic card. Everyone knows Pankratops. If you draw it going second, you can special summon it based on the number of monsters your opponent controls. If you have even one monster and you control none, just special summon it. Its effect is fantastic. Since it tributes and it doesn't require going to the graveyard, you're able to use it against cards like Virtual World's Shen Shen. So sure, you'll go to the banished zone, but you get to destroy anything on the field for your tribute effect. It's great. Skill drain. You tribute, you're no longer on the field, the effect goes off. Or even the more niche Macrocosmos. Macrocosmos is very niche, but it can be a pain if you're not used to it. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is your boss monster, able to flip the opponent's monsters over, and, thanks to its effect, send them to the graveyard, dealing 1000 damage, instead of destroying by battle. This is key for a lot of decks. Not key for super many, but it's enough that it's pretty useful. And plus, who doesn't like a free 1000 damage? For the main deck spells, we run Terraforming with 3 Lost Worlds. This field spell is incredibly useful because it places a 0/0 token on your opponent's field once per turn when you summon a dinosaur monster. It's either normal summon or special summon. Either way, they'll get a token on their field. Lost World is also great because it prevents your opponent from targeting any monster with effects besides tokens, so long as the token is on their field, making it especially great. Double Evolution Pill is your ticket to getting Ultimate Conductor Tyranno out, since it special summons from the deck and can be searched with Amador and Archsword. All you need for Double Evolution Pill is to banish 1 non-dinosaur monster and 1 dinosaur monster from your hand or graveyard. It cannot be from the field. Fossil Dig. I run 3 of those because it's just a good card. It lets you search for any dinosaur monster that you really need, or perhaps a starter you didn't draw into. Maybe you need Oviraptor, or Messaniasaurus, or Baby Sarah. Doesn't matter, you can search it, it's great. Prosperity. It's a little iffy, right? Because it had your damage, but you get to search for the card you need. You can excavate up to 6. Really, really useful for that. Lightning Storm is super useful going second because what is there to say about Lightning Storm? It can clear out your attack position opposition or your opponent's spell and trap cards. Like, it's great. Called By, everyone knows Called By. You gotta use it for hand traps or, especially in this meta, Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. You really don't want to get stuck fighting Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer for too long. Now for the extra deck monsters. Cypher Lord Omega and Borreload Savage Dragon are pretty situational and depend entirely on using Gamma on your own turn because we don't run other tuners besides Ash Blossom. And we don't really run a level 5, so you're not making either of those with Ash Blossom. Usually you won't even really be able to set up Borreload for more than 1 negate because in the graveyard you, in most situations, will only have Link Revo. And usually you want to banish that using Double Illusion Pill instead of actually using it for Borreload. Evolzar Logia, Evolzar Dolka, and Abyss Dweller are all very useful cards. Logia lets you negate a normal or special summon, or a spell trap card activation, at the cost of both of its material, so it can only do it once, but it's pretty much an omni-negate. Not quite, because you can't negate like monster effects, but hey, it's pretty good. Dolka discards only 1 material to negate any monster effect, so pretty strong. Abyss Dweller prevents your opponent from activating effects from the graveyard, which is a little more situational than Logia and Dolka. Okay, a lot more situational than Logia and Dolka, but it's still very useful against archetypes like Virtual World, which relies on their graveyard cycling. Crooked Cook, purely prosperity fodder. Every game I use prosperity, Crooked Cook is the instant choice. Baguska is situational, but pretty good for stalling if you need to. I ended up eventually going with Baguska whenever I'd be forced to go first, because if it's usually Numeron, it kind of screws over Numeron. Dugares is vital for your OTK by doubling the attack of one of your monsters, usually Tyranno. Link Revo is important to get material for Double Evolution Pill if you haven't used a hand trap. If you face a lot of interruption and aren't able to secure the OTK, or set a Pentastag, Secure Garna can send Link Revo to the graveyard and still allow you to use it for Double Evolution Pill material. It's not ideal, since you can't use this Link material to go into Pentastag or really any other card, but it could be worse. Nightmare Phoenix doesn't usually get summoned. I don't think I've actually summoned it more than once, but it can be very useful against a floodgate like Imperial Order, not so useful against Skill Drain. Pentastag. What can't be set up Pentastag? It is vital to the OTK, since it allows any linked monster to do piercing damage. Tyranno can attack each monster once per turn, or once per battle phase, my apologies. And if you're attacking every monster and doing piercing damage with Dugares, that's a lot of damage. Even without Dugares, 3500 attack can usually overpower most defense values. Nightmare Unicorn, Appaloosa, and Axis Code Talker are all going to be infrequent summons in this deck, but they're generically useful enough to have. I don't think I ever really went into them super frequently, but like I said, they're generically useful. Axis Code is sometimes useful enough to beat over a strong opponent's monster if you're out of Ultimate Conductor Tyrannos, or if you need negates, Appaloosa. Nightmare Unicorn, great for shuffling card back to the deck. If you have Prosperity, my usual first picks are Cypher Lord Omega, Borreload Savage Dragon, Crooked Cook, Baguska, Secure Garna, and Nightmare Phoenix. Obviously this changes a lot based on game state. Like if you're able to Gamma, I wouldn't send both Synchros, I would only send one. Because if you get Gamma out on your turn, it's a free Synchro, you might as well take it. Especially because you're going to need those main Monster Zone slots later for your combo. But like I said, this changes on game state. Just be careful, you know, keep an eye out whenever you're making it, and you'll be good to go, honestly. I won't cover combos, just because I've got two other decks to cover, granted in much less detail than I cover Dinos, since I play Dinos way more often. But the guide on Master Duel meta is super good. It's honestly great. If you want to see some gameplay, I am not the best duelist. I'll happily admit that. I have a win rate of like 54.6 in Diamond, something like that. You can check out my Daily Duel videos. They're not bad. Usually I think they're my peak gameplay, even. But yeah, you know, Dinos are great. I ended up not taking the deck all the way to Diamond 1 just because I got very impatient. Once I got demoted with the brick hands, it's maybe bad luck, maybe bad ratios, something I want to tweak a bit more, but you know, it's a fun deck. If you're interested in it, I would highly recommend giving it a try. It's a very expensive deck, but it's a fun deck. So, you know, if you're interested, take a look. My next deck is my Phantasm Spiral deck. This deck was by far my worst performing, with 16 wins and 17 losses, so a 48.5% win rate. Not that much lower than my Dinos deck, right? But 6 of the wins were AFK bots, so it's really a 10 win, 17 loss deck with a 37% win rate. So as a result, it was also my least used deck, with only 33 duels played, or 27 excluding the bots. I won't cover it as in depth as the Dinos, because there's really not much to talk about here, and also I didn't use it that often, so you know, might be better than I'm portraying it. Maybe not this deck list specifically, but the deck in general, you know, people might be better at piloting it than I am. Wouldn't be surprised, I'm not the greatest duelist, but it's not really my type of deck, I don't think. Megalo Smasher X is your normal summon. It's just a 2000 attack beat stick. Lava Golem, great for removing problem monsters from your opponent's field, like especially against Swordsoul. Getting their Swordsoul and Barone off the field, very useful. Terraforming helps search for Pacifist, the Phantasm City, which allows you to get a very good token on field, and also searches a Phantasm Spiral card once per turn when you summon exactly one monster. And it allows you to play your Phantasm Spiral cards from your hand. Card Demise helps you look for exactly what you need. Fossil Dig can help search for Megalo Smasher. Duality fulfills a pretty similar role to Card Demise. Heat Wave stops your opponent from playing the game for a bit, since most decks will not be running normal monsters. And so you get the chance to either beat them down a bit more, or draw into whatever you need. Phantasm Spiral Battle destroys one card on the field. Phantasm Spiral Power negates the effects of one monster your opponent controls and reduces its attack by 1,000. I believe its defense also decreases by 1,000. Metaverse will help you search for Pacifists. It's just a generic Pacifist searcher, it's great in this deck. Impermanence helps negate opponent monsters. Solemn Judgment helps negate anything that would ruin your board. Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi acts as a great negation option, and if they're destroyed, you can get a 4500 attack beat stick out. Pretty useful, not perfect, but pretty useful. Skill Drain and Macrocosmos are both strong floodgates. Sea Stealth attack lets you banish one of your monsters to prevent all face-up spells and traps you control from being destroyed for the rest of the turn. If any monster battles your token from Pacifist, because it's level 8, as long as Sea Stealth attack is up, they will be destroyed automatically at the start of the damage step. Very useful card. It's just not my kind of deck. The extra deck is almost entirely decoration. Like, none of these cards are going to be used besides Blue Eye's Ultimate Dragon, and that's only going to be used if Fist of the Tenyi is destroyed. So it's really just a main deck, and your extra deck is there if the most niche situation arrives, which is not going to happen very frequently, obviously, but when it happens, it is pretty cool. This deck is just not very great in my experience. Yeah, I'm looking at it now, it's a fine deck. I'm sure other variants of it are better. Other deck lists are probably better. Maybe someone else knows how to play it better. I'm sure most people know how to play it better, but it's just not my kind of deck, I don't think. And it definitely contributed the most to my my losses. But, you know, it's a fun deck when it works well. For me, it just didn't work well, but I might just not be the best pilot for it. My next and final deck is Swordsoul Tenyi. This deck did about as well as my Blind Second Dinos, but my losses felt more like they were due to fighting better players than it did to inconsistency. With 42 duels played and 23 wins, 19 losses, this deck had a 54.76% win rate. But this is also a suboptimal version of the deck, which I will cover very soon. This is a mostly average Swordsoul Tenyi list, so I'll spare you the details of what is usually in a Swordsoul Tenyi list, since if you played Master Duel, you've probably fought 100 of these by now. Instead, I'll focus on the minor changes I made. Most of the Tenyi I run at 2, including the very infrequently used Shadana. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I'm going to screw up a lot of names in this, which I feel very bad about. But I just don't know how to pronounce them, so I deeply apologize if you do. I mean, no ill will, I just don't know how to pronounce the cards. But they're fun cards. I like the destruction effect of Shadana, but I'm going to cut this in the future since it really didn't matter much. It was only for infrequent situations where I could get Monk the Tenyi out and also have Swordsoul Blackout set. Occasionally it would work if they destroyed Monk the Tenyi. Usually it didn't really work out too well. But you know, in retrospect, it wasn't great. When I was laddering and when I was deck building, I thought it seemed good. I also run 3 Godarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, for a few reasons. I had pretty bad luck with Coin Flip for a while, so I really wanted a safer way to out my opponent if I was forced to go second. Getting their Roan off the field, or whatever their boss monster is, it was so nice, because I didn't have to waste a Lightning Storm, and it just allowed me to actually play the game a bit more consistently. I didn't use a better Kaiju because I don't have a better Kaiju, and I really didn't want to use the SR dust for Gamma Seal. I excluded Crossout Designator because I don't have any copies and really did not want to spend the Ultra Rare dust for it. I excluded Nibiru because I was really dumb and didn't think about how useful it'd be. In retrospect, it's a pretty useful card, I just didn't use it. It's probably going to be put in my deck. Taking a quick look at the extra deck, the biggest difference here is the lack of Hauki Fibrax and the Auroradon engine. It's a fantastic engine, one I would really like to use, but I don't have either of the cards, and I didn't want to spend the dust to make it since I wasn't sure if I'd actually want to use this deck after the season. If I do decide to stick with this deck, which I'm thinking I will, my likely changes will be cutting both Shadana, cutting 2 of the impermanents, and then adding Nibiru, adding 2 Crossout Designators, and adding Despot 001 to the main deck. For the extra deck, I'd likely cut one of the Monk of Tenyi and Adamant Pater Risen Dragite so I can add Hauki Fibrax and Auroradon. This would be a lot of ultra rare material. I do already have Nibiru, at least, but you know, it's probably worth it because it's going to make the deck a lot more consistent and overall just a lot stronger. Phew, that took a while, didn't it? But hey, you made it to the end. If you made it all the way here, thank you so much for your support. Honestly, even if you didn't make it all the way here, you're not going to hear this, but thank you. It really means the world to me to have people watch my content, even if it's not for the full duration of the video, even if it's for like 5 seconds. I mean, you clicked on my video. That's surprising to me, personally. I think for now, Daily Duel can be considered retired since I hit my goal of hitting Diamond 1. My win rate wasn't quite as high as I would have liked, and I'm not really sure what I'll be doing in the future, but rest assured there will be more Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel content coming in the future. Maybe some other content too. I like Pokemon. Maybe Pokemon content. Probably not much Pokemon content. It'll probably be like a thing talking about why I absolutely love Legends of Arceus, and that'd be like it until a Pokemon Direct reaction or something. But, you know, something like that. But that's all from me. I'd love to hear from you all in the comments down below. But for now, this is Estu, signing off. Have a good one.